Amaka is tried in Canada and during the trial, she's found to be guilty of such crime and she's convicted and sentenced in Canada, it shows that naturally Canadian government is intolerant of her action. It shows that Canadian government would not tolerate such action. It shows that Canadian government does not believe in such action. For us to be sure that Canadian government really does not believe in such action, people that have perpetrated the action before Amaka, people whose oration and action made Amaka to kind of like give a retaliatory statement that led to her conviction, Canadian government should also be fair to give to kind of like make an action, or kind of like take an action rather against such people, which in this case will be a visa ban family. So if Amaka is convicted in Canada, definitely Remi Tinubu and her immediate family should receive a visa ban from the Canadian government. If Amaka is convicted in Canada, Oba Akiolu and his immediate family should receive a visa ban from the Canadian government. That is justice. That is fairness. That shows that the Canadian government is not biased. That shows that the Canadian government is truthfully. I think just a fine or a warning is okay if she has no past criminal record. But if you just convict Amaka and the next week you grant visa to Remi Tinubu, you grant Canadian visa to MC Oluomo, you grant Canadian visa to Oba Akiolu, definitely if you do that, that means that you are biased as a government, and that itself is injustice to Amaka. Hello, great people. After much clamor by the Tinubu government, Nigerian Diaspora Commission and its sympathizers, the Canadian government reportedly arrested the Igbo woman that threatened that Yoruba people are going to be poisoned. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing in-depthly the woman's arrest, the law, the diplomatic relations that would have gone on at the background, and what will eventually happen to her. So it's going to be a very loaded conversation. I remain myself, Dr. Omosholadeji, political scientist, public affairs analyst. Now, before I start my analysis, if you missed my first video about the woman's outburst, please go to my YouTube channel and go and watch it. The video has, right now as I'm speaking to you, over 28,000 views. So you don't want to miss out on the first episode so that you can catch up with this episode. Now, let's dive into the conversation, great people. Now, why would the woman, Amaka Patience Sunnberry, why would she have been arrested by the Canadian government? Well, I must say that some people are saying that by the intonation of the woman is most likely from Edo. So there's been this debate online that, oh, the woman is from Edo. Some are saying the woman is Igbo. But according to information released by the Nigerian government, her name is Amaka Patience Sunnberry. So in the days ahead, we would know what her true identity is. But for the sake of this video, I'll just refer to her as Amaka. So just for the sake of this video, right? So now, why was Amaka arrested? Just let's imagine it, because these are issues between Nigerians. So sincerely, Amaka was arrested because of Nigerian government clamor and diplomatic relations. The clamor by Nigerian government and diplomatic relations, you know, when Nigerian government puts pressure on a foreign government on issues relating to its own citizen. Don't forget that Amaka is Nigerian by birth, Canadian by naturalization. So that means that Amaka is more Nigerian than a Canadian. So she's more Nigerian than being a Canadian. So in this case, if anything happens as regards Amaka and there's a dispute, definitely Nigerian government's position will hold sway, because Amaka is a Nigerian by birth. So when Nigeria begin to engage in diplomatic relations with Canada, definitely Canada would want to yield to Nigeria's demand don't forget that this matter was taken, well, I must say, too seriously, because people have made inflammatory statement as well that Nigerian government did not act. But Nigerian government took it seriously to the extent that the House of Representatives in Nigeria allegedly wrote Canadian government. Imagine that. So if the House of Representatives of Nigeria is writing the Canadian government as regards somebody because of where that writing is coming from, that it is Nigeria High Authority, definitely Canadian government are going to take it serious. They are going to kind of like look into it because they believe that the state ordinarily, as it ought to be, but which is not apparently, should be an impartial arbiter. So, and why was she arrested? Nigerian government would have framed it under national security. You know, that's the common balance of Nigerian government, that, oh, this has to do with national security. So when Nigerian government frames this under national security, definitely Canadian government under diplomatic relations, so that the ties between Canada and Nigeria does not go wrong, definitely Canadian government is bound to act on such requests from Nigerian government. So the thing is, the Canadian government said, okay, let us arrest this lady and hear from her. So after much pressure, Amaka has been arrested. Perhaps if there had been counter pressure, adequate counter pressure, maybe she wouldn't have been arrested. But what I think is, when Nigerian government was putting pressure, Amaka was more like a lone ranger. So she didn't have this counter pressure to the Canadian government. And of course, you know that government to government relationship is superior to individual to government relationship. Again, I repeat, government to government relationship is superior to any government than individual to government relationship. So whether right or wrong, the Canadian government has decided to please Nigerian government by inviting Amaka. Now, the thing is, you see, if not for Nigerian government insistence, Amaka wouldn't have been arrested, because Amaka's arrest and prosecution, if a prima facie case is established against her, will be done with taxpayers' money. And when you are not like a first-rated citizen, governments don't like to use their taxpayers' money. For example, I give you an example. If you get a UK visa, if it's a visiting visa, it's written on it that no recourse to public funds. That means that you are the one that have seen their country, you are the one that thinks that, okay, there's something good or great about their country, and you have find their country worthy of visit. So you are not entitled to anything that is provided from taxpayers' money. So that means that if you are sick, you are not entitled to get free medical treatment, because the free medical treatment will be provided to you from taxpayers' money. So that's why they usually state in the visa that no recourse to public funds. Now that Amaka has been arrested, if Nigerian government did not put pressure, definitely the lady would not have been arrested. Certainly, she wouldn't have been arrested. But the pressure of Nigerian government have made the Canadian government to do what ordinarily they wouldn't like to do, using their taxpayers' money to fund issues of a developing country in Africa. It's not every day that happens, but now that has been done, now that Amaka has been arrested, this is going to happen. Her past Canadian record will be reviewed for similar offenses. They will go to their database. You know, these countries are good on record. They'll go to their database and look at Amaka's profile, Amaka's record. What is in her record? Has she committed any offense? Is she a first-time offender? Has she ever been charged with disruption of public peace? Has she done anything that kind of like incite the public in Canada, in the past? Does she have any conviction or strong offenses? If Amaka's profile is clean and she has lived in Canada as a citizen for many years, from the picture of Amaka that I'm seeing online, Amaka should be in her 40s or early 50s. So if Amaka, for instance, let's say she have stayed in Canada for 10 years, if luck shines on her that during that 10 years, Amaka has not been convicted of any crime, Amaka has not made any insightful statement, nobody has reported her for anything, she has not been to the police station, her record is super clean, that itself will make the Canadian government to kind of like, handle her with care that, okay, a case has been reported against her, but by our record, we know that for this woman to have lived here for this long and there's no criminal record against her, then that means that we need to give her benefit of the doubt. But if they look into Amaka's record and our record stinks, definitely, the Canadian government will do all it takes to bring her to book, because they will believe most of the submissions by Nigerian government. That's why when you are in a foreign land, it's always good to keep good record, because Amaka's record now, we hate the Canadian government action positively or negatively in this case. So it will aid what the action of Canadian government would be. Then another thing that will happen during this arrest is that Canadian psychologists will review the intent behind the action and capacity to carry it out. They won't just say, "Oh, Amaka is guilty." There's a way foreign government works. They will try and get some psychologists to review the intent of her actions, what brought about it, and the capacity to carry it out. For instance, when Amaka made that statement, let's assume that there is a crisis in Nigeria, Yoruba land, and Amaka's brother was killed by a Yoruba person at that point in time, and Amaka had received the news a day before. So if in that public forum, if Amaka made such a statement, the Canadian government, the psychologists would believe that she made that statement out of anger based on personal loss. What had happened to her, the news that she has received a day before. So they would know that that statement was made out of anger. Then looking at Amaka, they will review that, okay, is it possible for you to poison an entire race? The answer is no. So they will just kind of like restrict her and make sure that they place a restriction on our relations with Yoruba people within our environment, our workplace, our school, if she's a student. But if Amaka had not received any news, and one of the things they are going to review is her social media. That's why I tell people your social media is very important. They will review her social media and do, the psychologists, the prosecutors, the investigators will review her social media and do to look at her lifestyle. So if Amaka had been making hate speeches, derogatory comments, they will know that, oh, this is a thing. But if Amaka has been a good citizen, living a private life, they want to inquire further that what would have made her to make such an outburst. Is it that Amaka has joined a terrorist organization? Is it that she is being radicalized? Is it that she is mingled with a group of ethnic jingoists? These are things that Canadian government would investigate. It's not like the normal, Nigerian African government that they just rush to things. No, these are people that takes their time, that takes their process to kind of like do things because they believe in justice. They believe that you shouldn't be kind of imprisoned wrongly, and these are people that operate with sane mind. So they would review Amaka thoroughly. The psychologist will have some work to do on her. The detective will ask her some questions just to unravel what could have made Amaka to make such an outburst. Now, when the psychologist review the intent behind the action and capacity to carry it out, if they see that the statement was made maybe out of aggravated anger, for instance, maybe her brother was killed a day or 2 days before by a Yoruba man, definitely they will temper justice with mercy for her. So the thing is that, for me, if civil society right now, if groups, civil society stand up for her, stand up en masse for her, Canadian government will consider freeing her. Now, Nigerian government is working against Amaka. They are releasing, kind of like statement, strong worded letter, placing it on national security. But if civil societies, groups in Canada, if they stand up for Amaka, if they begin to present contrary fact, I don't know Amaka's relation with other people and groups in Canada, I don't know her network, I don't know her contact, but if Amaka has strong contact, strong network, and these people rise up for her, and they begin to kind of like submit contrary claims that, oh, this is what has been happening in Nigeria, the Nigerian government that is seeking the prosecution of this lady, this is how Nigerian government itself has been handling such cases in Nigeria. So if Nigerian government have failed to bring people that made inflammatory statements such as MC Oluomo in Lagos, Asari Dokubo in the Niger Delta, a royal father Oba Akiolu of Lagos, the Lagospedia guy, lots of examples. So if Nigerian Bayo Nonuga, that's another example, the special assistant to the president on, I think, media or something like that. Yeah, I think media. So if these people have been making inflammatory statements, and Nigerian government that is supposed to be an impartial arbiter, that is supposed to bring about rule of law, had not brought these people to justice, then why are they seeking the prosecution of Amaka for making a statement that people in Nigeria are making without being prosecuted? But this argument can be made if Amaka will be charged to court, before charging her to court. This argument can be strongly made by groups in Canada, can be strongly made by civil societies in Canada, can be strongly made by if they have Eze Indigo or something like that in Canada. This argument can be strongly made by the Igbo groups in Canada, and they will have to make the strong argument dating back to the Nigerian Civil War, arguing how Nigerian government, other major ethnic tribe, has denied Igbo the access to Nigeria's presidency after the Civil War. These are strong arguments that, if made, the Canadian government will begin to see that, oh, I think this thing is an age-long thing. So the time that Amaka needs a network the most is now. She needs people that can stand for her. She needs people that are intelligent. I don't know, a circle. Maybe they just think of how to kind of like party, wear Brazilian hair and all that. But if she has intellectual people in her circle, definitely they're going to come up with this strong argument to the Canadian government, and this will aid the Canadian government action. So if strong arguments are made, the Canadian government may consider just giving her a warning and freeing her. So civil society has a lot to do. People in Canada, for instance, the groups in Canada, different groups, have a lot to do at this point in time. So what I can say, what I want to see from the Canadian government is for the Canadian government to review the ongoings in Nigeria. Canadian government should not just kind of like jump into conclusion because they are relating with a fellow government, or because a fellow government have laid an allegation against somebody. No, the way they operate in Canada is not the way they operate in Nigeria. Nigerian government is from another planet entirely in terms of kind of like justice, fairness, equity, and the rule of law. So the Canadian government will be doing itself a whole lot of good if the Canadian government can review the ongoings in Nigeria. They can review it. If they review it themselves, they would know that, oh, maybe this woman does not deserve to be kind of like arraigned in court. So they have to review what has been going on. What would have led to this thing? What is the interethnic relations in Nigeria? What statement have other people made? And the people that made those statements, do they have more influence than Amaka? Do their statements carry more weight than Amaka? For instance, the statement of Oba Akiolu, the statement of Remi Tinubu, the statement of Bayo Nonuga, the statement of the chairman of National Union of Road Transport Workers in Lagos, MC Oluomo, all these people, They are more influential than Amaka. They have more influence on the society. People in the society that believe in them, people that are under them, are likely to act based on their words, based on their submissions, based on their oration, than the words of just Amaka. Because how many people are in Amaka's country? How many people can Amaka influence? So if Canadian government do a thorough review of what have been going on in Nigeria, I believe they will be fair on Amaka. Sincerely, I believe that they will be fair on Amaka. Another thing is that if Amaka has a good lawyer, definitely, things will go fine for her. Things will go fine for her if she has a very, very good lawyer. Who, for instance, you know that, you and I know that lawyers, most times, they don't say the 100% truth. For instance, if a lawyer, if she's charged to court, argues that Amaka's father perhaps died, during the Civil War or something like that, and that death have always kind of like utter, and I've always made that if a lawyer can argue that Amaka have suffered monumental loss as a result of interethnic relation in Nigeria, as a result of ethnic injustice to the Igbos in Nigeria, definitely the court will review it, and even if found guilty, we just give her like a warning or perhaps a pardon or just a fine. So the thing is, the Canadian government, if they are to be fair, they have to review the ongoings in Nigeria to be sure that they are taking the right action, and not that Amaka will just be punished while other people in Nigeria that have perpetrated such crimes are kind of like enjoying their freedom. Now, if convicted, if Canadian government tries Amaka and she's convicted, for fairness, I would love a situation if the Canadian government grant visa ban to show that, okay, for instance, if Amaka is tried in Canada and during the trial she's found to be guilty of such crime and she's convicted and sentenced in Canada, it shows that naturally Canadian government is intolerant of her action. It shows that Canadian government would not tolerate such action. It shows that Canadian government does not believe in such action. For us to be sure that Canadian government really does not believe in such action, people that have perpetrated the action before Amaka, people whose oration and action made Amaka to kind of like give a retaliatory statement that led to her conviction, Canadian government should also be fair to kind of like make an action, or kind of like take an action rather against such people, which in this case will be a visa ban. A visa ban for people that have made inflammatory statement and their immediate family. So if Amaka is convicted in Canada, definitely Remi Tinubu and her immediate family should receive a visa ban from the Canadian government. If Amaka is convicted in Canada, Oba Akiolu and his immediate family should receive a visa ban from the Canadian government. That is justice. That is fairness. That shows that the Canadian government is not biased. That shows that the Canadian government is truthful in its position. But if you just convict Amaka and the next week you grant visa to Remi Tinubu, you grant Canadian visa to MC Oluomo, you grant Canadian visa to Oba Akiolu, definitely if you do that, that means that you are biased as a government, and that itself is injustice to Amaka herself. Now, you might want to ask that if Amaka is convicted, will she be deported? I don't think so. The reason is that because Amaka has an issue with Nigerian government, if she's sentenced and maybe she's found guilty, she won't be deported, because deporting her will be putting her life in danger. So those are one of the arguments that a lawyer must make if she's arraigned. But I think just a fine or a warning is okay if she has no past criminal record. Now, she won't be deported because her life will be in danger. So she has to argue that she can't trust the safety of her life and property with the Nigerian government. So she can only feel safe in Canada. And I think this argument will fly safely if Amaka can be able to present this argument before the Canadian government. So deportation is no option. But the truth is, her citizenship won't be revoked, but for Amaka herself that says her citizenship can't be revoked, that is a lie. The citizenship that cannot be revoked, that is an inalienable right, is citizenship by birth. When you are born in a country, when you are the citizenship of a country by ancestry, by birth, that citizenship cannot be revoked. That is why no matter what Showore do, no matter what the Jadeyoju do, the Nigerian government can only charge them to court and seek their seek judgment against them, and can only persecute them. But Tinubu cannot say, oh, he hates Showore for organizing a protest, then he will now revoke his citizenship. This cannot happen. Now, Amaka herself needs some decorum. Amaka needs some decorum because I think that after that statement was made, she is supposed to seek legal advice and remain calm. But in this case, Amaka went to public forum and start saying, oh, she's in her house, she cannot be deported and all that. No, I think Amaka needs some kind of like decorum. She needs to be advised. She needs to know when to talk. She needs to know when to act. She needs to know when to keep quiet going forward. Imagine when this thing was hot and, Nigerian government was kind of like, threatening fire and brimstone. Just imagine if Amaka has just tendered just a public apology. Sometimes when you do this thing, it's not that you are stupid. No. What if Amaka had just tendered a public apology that, oh, I am sorry for the statement I made? Definitely, Nigerian government action would have amounted to almost nothing, because the Canadian government would look at it that, oh, this woman has naturally felt remorse and she has tendered a public apology. Now, it's been an interesting time with you on this episode of Politics with Omoshola Deji, your political scientist, public affairs analyst. Like I said earlier, if you missed my first recording on this topic, which is titled Igbo Must Go versus Poison Yoruba, why the Igbo lady in Canada cannot be blamed, can and not be blamed. So it's a very interesting video. Please go and watch it on YouTube. It is very important. Do not miss it. Till I see you again, it's been your wonderful political scientist and public affairs analyst, Dr. Omoshola Deji. Trust me, I'm going to see you soon. I'm not always far from you. I love you all. Stay safe. God bless you. I love you sincerely.